All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to kind of get started here. If you've never joined us before, this is Mini AMA. Mini AMA is a monthly virtual interactive education series where we're joined by subject matter experts like these amazing people to answer your questions. And I'm Maria Plussel. I'm the executive director of Minnestar. We're a nonprofit community organization that's built to nurture and engage those interested in technology through meaningful connection. So we're the organizers of some of the largest gatherings bringing together Minnesota's tech community, like Minibar, which you heard me reference a little bit earlier, which is the nation's largest and longest running unconference. That one has been postponed until the fall, but we are having a virtual mini bar happening this Saturday. We will definitely throw that link out in the chat to you so you can sign up for that. Like all of our events, it is free. We have a really awesome lineup. We also run Mini Demo, which is Minnesota's premier geek show and tell, if you will. It is live demos of working Minnesota-made technology. We also have Mini Demo Back to Campus, which is same format, but it really showcases Minnesota's student tech talent because all of the presenters are current students or recent graduates. And then lastly, we have Mini AMA. So this used to be every month. Now it's every other week. And it's designed to bring interactive learning opportunities to anyone, anywhere. We're really excited to be joined today by, like I said, these amazing panelists who you'll get to meet in just a second as we kick off the hot topic of pair programming. So to kick us off, I think I will pass it over to our incredible moderator, Matt Decuir.
All right, well, thanks, Maria. Hi, everybody. I'm, I guess, a guest host and self-described minibar superfan. So it's a great honor to host this AMA. I hosted one back in January on product management, which was so much fun, and I think today is going to be even more fun, just because this is my assumption is that this is going to be a very relaxed sort of conversation, an informal conversation about pair programming among friends. So. Just a tiny bit of housekeeping. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and we will get to answering them whenever we can. But beyond that, I'll give a quick intro and then kick it over to Jenessa and Jenna to introduce themselves. So I am a self-taught software engineer, and I have pair programmed before at like my first development job, which I did for like about 2.5 years. And subsequently, I've been a team of one, and so I haven't pair programmed in a little while, but I really, really like doing it. And so I'm really curious because I know Jenessa and Jenna both have completely different experiences with pair programming. I'm very excited to hear their perspectives on the topic. And so with that, I don't know who wants to start. Jenessa, I'll let you kick it off. I think I was going to start by giving an awkward intro and then let you fill in the gaps. So Jenessa,
my favorite.
Jenessa's a friend. She's a developer. I think you went through the Iron Yard maybe like 4 years ago or so.
Yep.
All right. Okay. She is a sports nut, and so like literally like if you ever want to get her talking about something, just ask her about sports, and she'll talk your ear off. And with that, I'll let you fill in all of the gaps. But Jenessa White, everybody.
Yes. Thank you, Matt. Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Jenessa. I have been a developer for 4 years now. I've worked at a dev shop and an early stage startup as a developer. So I've got two kind of different experiences there, and done a lot of pair programming, all types. I've done shared keyboard, shared screen. I've done just two laptops, working in the same space. And I've done kind of shared laptop in a coffee shop style pair programming. So I've got a lot of opinions, but I'm a fan. So I'm very excited to be here.
Great, thanks for sort of touching on the question that I forgot to ask, which is like, what's your experience with pair programming? The last question actually is really just like, how are you doing today? I think in times of COVID, it's important to sort of check in on how people are doing, because every day is different and weird and terrible and great, all for different reasons. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well today. I got up really early, which is unlike me during these times, but I'm going to get outside after this. So good day so far.
Excellent. Thank you. And then next up, we have Jenna Pederson. and Jenna is probably like one of the most experienced developers I know. She is sort of like a CTO for hire, running her own business called 612 Software Foundry. And I don't even know what her specialties are anymore, but I know she's worked with Rails and Vue and JavaScript and React and all of the hot new JavaScript frameworks, among many others. And with that, I'll let Jenna fill in the gaps, but introduce yourself and share your experience with pair programming. And then lastly, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm gonna start with how I'm doing. I'm doing good/okay. I feel like we spend a lot of time in front of computers and video cameras and stuff lately, so that's kind of where I'm at. So yeah, I'm Jenna Pederson. I have been writing code for, well, in my career, almost 20 years. And then before that in school. And my experience with pair programming has been, I've done it probably off and on for maybe the last 12 or so years. Early on, it was very, very informal, kind of just like pairing on a specific problem when we have a problem or when something's challenging, or when I either needed to impart some knowledge on someone else, or the other way around, I needed to get up to speed on something. All the way to very, very formal pair programming where we have actual pair programming workstations, one computer, two keyboards, two mice. And so, yeah, I've been doing it a lot. I don't do it every day anymore. In fact, I haven't done it for a while. So I'm kind of interested to hear others' experiences as well.
Well, great. Well, thanks, Jenna, for introducing yourself. I guess the first question is like, how do you define pair programming? And I know in my own experience, like the experience I've had was like two people sitting essentially in the same room together or next to each other, looking at one screen, but it's not like there was a specific rig, so to speak, for that. And so that's like my limited experience. So I'm curious to hear, it sounds like you both have had different experiences, but like, how would you define it? And yeah, like what did it look like?
Yeah, so I can go first. So I define pair programming as any time I sit with one or more developers and I'm working on a thing together. I don't have a lot of experience with like the rig setup, so that I know that a lot of people consider like only that to be pair programming, and I just don't think that's true, because I think if we're working on something together, whether it's on the same keyboard or two separate keyboards in the same monitor, we're pairing together on something.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think it's ultimately two people or more sitting down to work on a single problem together on one computer. And it means that the second person isn't off checking Facebook, they're not off checking their email, they're engaged the whole time, so that it's more of a collaborative effort than someone just like hovering over your shoulder. I've definitely done it in I would not call this pair programming, but been in a situation where I'm in a cubicle and have someone like hovering over my shoulder and like we're trying to solve a problem together, and that's not really pair programming for a variety of reasons. But yeah, so it's ultimately, you know, two or more people sitting together on the same computer, working together to solve the same problem at the same time.
I gotta say, like having somebody look over your shoulder while you code sounds like the most like stressful like way to program.
Yeah, exactly.
But hold on, so you've done pair programming with more than like two people? I'm curious what that's like.
So
I haven't ever done that before.
So there's actually a technique of pairing called mob programming. I can't remember who started this, but it is where you have multiple people and you can rotate through the pairing. Like one person types and the mob just sits there and like tells you what to do. Or it can be a little bit more organized where, you know, it's a little bit more collaborative than just the like telling people what to type kind of thing. But yeah.
That sounds terrifying.
Yeah, but I think there's there might even be a Twitter account called Mob Programming, but there's an actual person who like popularized it.
Wow.
I will be looking that up immediately.
Somebody in chat, I don't know if they were like, this was like a question of like what, like that they were suggesting it's called mob programming, but they threw 2 question marks in there. So I'm wondering if they're like also in shock that that's a thing. Okay, so I guess getting further into it, and this is definitely like we're going to be approaching hot takes territory very soon. But what are some of the benefits that you've seen in your experience of pair programming?
You want to go first?
Sure. I think for me, being as like I'm the most junior developer here, and when I started out, I was like I needed pair programming. It was something that was for me to get read in on projects, having worked at a consultancy, like having a lot of different projects happening at the same time can be very challenging. So it's very helpful to like sit down with somebody and get read in, have them help you set things up, you know, make your first commit to a repo. Having all those things are very helpful from a junior perspective. It's just like having that, it's kind of like it kind of feels like a little bit of a safety blanket where you feel safe to make mistakes because you know somebody's going to help you correct them right then and there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think like the knowledge transfer one is a big one. Just and it's not even just like junior, senior skill level or like knowledge of the code base level, or I'm sorry, like experience level, but it's knowledge of the business domain, knowledge of the tech stack, just getting up to speed on whatever feature it is that you're building. Like maybe it's a completely new feature and most of the team is working on something else, but you're working on this one thing and you're going to go away after a while, or your contract is going to end, or you're going to go on vacation. Someone else has to support it. So having another person there as you're building it can help with the knowledge transfer aspect. I think another, and this kind of goes into the misconceptions too, is, or a little bit into misconceptions, is it actually improves the quality. Because you've got, instead of one set of eyes, you got 2 sets of eyes on it. You can hit those, you can improve the quality, like build it in right from the start, as opposed to like, I've built this thing, now I'm going to hand it over the wall to QA and they're going to test it. And then they're going to come back and you're going to have to potentially start over again because it didn't work. Same thing with code reviews. It can almost eliminate code reviews. I've been on teams where we pair program, and then if there's things that we don't pair on, those are the things that go through code review, like a more formal code review process. Yeah, so like that is a big, the knowledge transfer and the quality building in upfront, that is a huge piece of it. Yeah.
I think that's one of the things, like when you brought up that is, it's a perk, it's a benefit, but also sometimes it's a misconception, like the code quality thing is like also the speed, right? Like a lot of times if I'm pairing, I'm getting something done faster, even though there's 2 of us, than I would have gotten done if it was just me, depending on what it is.
Yeah, totally. And I think there's actually been some research, like formal research on this, of suppose 2 people take on 2 projects independently, and it takes 10 months to do that independently. But if you pair on project 1 and you get that one done in 4 months, and then you pair on project 2 and you get that one done in 6 months or something like that, it works out to be about half the time you end up getting one of those projects done earlier, and one of them possibly done later. And that might sound like that's a big deal and it took too long and we're paying 2 people to do the job of 1 person and whatever, but you actually got that one project out a lot quicker, and that means that your customer base can start using it earlier. You can potentially make money off of it earlier. So yep. There's kind of a fine line to what you can or should be pair programming on, or what you shouldn't, and yeah, so it can definitely affect timelines a little bit.
It's interesting. I feel like we're approaching like mythical man month territory, or maybe it should be called mythical person month territory.
There you go.
But my experience has been similar to yours, Jenessa. Like as a pretty junior dev, I feel like a lot of the knowledge transfer was me learning and getting context like on like how to get a repo set up and like all of the weird acronyms. And like, I
Yeah.
think like having somebody there as a safety net to sort of answer questions and guide you and like point you in the right direction so that you don't like sit there and like get stuck and bang your head against the wall for like a whole day. Like it's so much faster because you have somebody there to like hold your hand. And Jenna, I think as I get more experienced, I think you're right that like the context, like the providing context and getting somebody up to speed, like regardless of your skill level, is totally from what I've seen, like a very valuable aspect of it too. Just because you're saving so much time, so much cycle time, where if you're on your own, you might get stuck or blocked.
Yeah.
And then you like might have to message somebody and wait for an answer and yada yada yada.
Or like you get down this rabbit hole of refactoring something, and instead of spending 5 hours on it, you spend 2 people hours on it, and you've now saved yourself 3 hours of digging through something and time wasting and whatever. There's one question in the chat from Jack about I mentioned what you should pair on, and that's like there's a lot of opinions on this. I'm a person who likes to think very pragmatically about what I'm doing, and that's everything from like what I'm building to what I'm testing to pair programming. And so for me, this is just another tool in my toolbox. I really just want I want to use it wisely, and so it might make sense that it might mean that like you're doing something that you have done 10 times before, and so there's less opportunity to make mistakes, and so maybe you don't pair on that. But one of the arguments to that one is you've done it 10 times before, maybe there's an abstraction that you can pull out of that, and so that's that could be a good opportunity to actually pair on it, even if you've done it before. So there's just kind of different ways of looking at the problem that you're solving. It's like if it's a really complex problem, it probably makes sense to pair on it, because maybe you both don't know about the actual problem and the complexities yet until you actually get into working on it.
To jump in, I would argue that like if it's something that you've done like 10 times, that might be a great pairing opportunity for somebody who hasn't done it 10 times, because then you can take the passenger seat and let the other person drive and talk them through it, because it's like, this is calling it easy is probably not the right thing, but it's like it's easy in your head. Like if it was just you doing it, it wouldn't take you very long. But for somebody new, that's the perfect opportunity for knowledge transfer.
Yep. Correct. 100% agree.
I feel like we got a couple other questions already relating to things you've already mentioned. And Keisha asked, not sure if I followed, but what is the misconception that's being addressed? And maybe this gets into one of our next questions about what are the misconceptions or the perceived downsides to pair programming, maybe?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, so one of the misconceptions is just that you're paying 2 people to do the job of 1 person. And if our job was just to type and that was the hardest part of our job, yeah, you probably would be paying 2 people too much money to just type. But the thing is, like, the easiest part of our job is actually the typing and the syntax and writing the code out. The hard part is actually figuring out what the problem is and what the problem to solve is and what the users actually need. And also, like, how do we solve the problem? And so that's like that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions that I see, is just from the business side. People seem to think that like it's a waste of money because 2 people are doing the work of 1.
I agree. I think that is the biggest one that I hear for people that say like they don't do it. That I've like been in interviews and they're like, I ask them, do you all do pair programming? Because that's something that I've kind of like put on my list of like, I'm not gonna work somewhere that doesn't welcome the idea of pair programming. And they're like, no. And they're like, why? And they're like, it takes too much time or it costs too much. And I'm like, what? This makes no sense. So it's like almost infuriating to hear at this point, because there's so much out there that shows that that's not true. And then that with like the speed thing, like that it slows you down, and that's not true. Like to improve it time and time again, that those things are not true.
Yeah. And I think like, I think kind of the flip side of it, crap, what was I just saying? Of the misconception of what was I just saying? I can't even remember. Let's just move on.
We were talking.
It's okay.
Lost my train of thought.
It's okay. It'll come up again for
It
sure.
will. It will.
So Lane Cunningham just asked specifically, Jenessa, what do you think some of the misconceptions and challenges are, which I think you just kind of answered.
Yeah. So as for misconceptions, those are my main ones. Is like the speed, the quality, and the cost. Those are what I think the misconceptions are. As far as challenges, I think those are a little bit different. I think some of the challenges that I've experienced is like working with someone who likes to dictate code. Like they will tell you exactly what to type, and I think part of it is like you have to leave your ego at the door when you get into this situation. Like even if you're a more senior person or you've done this 15 times before, so you might be working with somebody that's never done this, and you're not going to help them by bringing your ego into the situation. So I think some of the challenges are just like learning who you're working with, setting that trust, and like hoping that you can set some boundaries and like maybe you let the junior drive more often, or if maybe these are equal like levels of development, you're figuring out a way to split that time and have conversations while you're doing the work, and not just going, okay, name the variable this and write this out this way. Like everybody has little ways of doing things differently, and everybody has different ways of learning. So that's something that's really important.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And there's actually, just to kind of build on that, there's different styles of pairing too. And there's kind of, I think like 4 different kinds. And I can put a link to a document that I have related to this, but there's kind of the driver navigator where, and so these different styles can lend differently to different situations that you're in. So one style might be better for 2 people who are like a junior and a senior person versus 2 senior people, or someone who is like a keyboard hog versus someone who's maybe a little bit more not as assertive in their role yet.
Yep.
So there's just to kind of list them out, there's the driver navigator, where one person is kind of doing the typing, the stuff that's immediately in front of you, finding the file to modify, working on the function. There's the person, the navigator, who is thinking more broadly. They might be thinking like, okay, we've done this somewhere else, let's pull this in here, or let's refactor it, that type of thing. There's also, I think it's called like strong pairing, which is kind of builds on the driver navigator, but it's where the driver is doing the typing, but that's kind of it. Like, and then the navigator is doing everything else, including some of that driving, but without the keyboard. And so that can be better for maybe a junior senior role where the junior has like they're brand new to the code base, or someone who's just totally new to the code base. And then the other one that I like is ping pong pairing, which can be really good for like 2 seniors or even a junior or a senior, where one person writes the test, you switch, the other person implements it, and then they write the test, and then you ping pong it back, and then they implement it. You just kind of go back and forth so that you both get to write tests and you both get to implement, and that can help with a number of things. But yeah, so that those are kind of some of the different styles that can be helpful.
Yeah,
that's amazing, because I feel like it's like that second version, the ping pong version, is like you've got pair programming and TDD built into it together.
Yep. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone, so to speak.
And I think
convince people to write tests.
Yeah, exactly. But like, it can be good if maybe the person you're working with is not as familiar with testing, but you are, and maybe they're more familiar with the code base or the business domain and you aren't. So like you get to, you're not just pair programming there, you're transferring some knowledge, you're learning from different people, and you're actually implementing the thing and testing it.
100%.
going back a tiny bit, Tamara asked, and this, I guess this kind of goes back to like misconceptions and whatnot. Can you speak to managers' concerns about tracking effort across stories? The issue for them was, how many points do I need to assign?
That doesn't change.
What's that?
So that doesn't change. I feel like just because we're pairing on something doesn't mean we just rework how we do our story points. Like that's something that I've had like talked about at some, like in some meetings with PMs, is like, we're going to pair on this, and it might not be the whole story or the whole ticket, however you all are laying out your backlog or your work. It's, if it takes this amount of time, it takes this amount of time, and we're just estimating. Like, we're not trying to get an exact number. It's an estimation.
Totally. And I think the other thing to consider is your story points shouldn't be for a person and their time. It is for the team, the entire team, to get it from start to finish. So, and if you're dividing your card up into two separate things for like design and unit testing, or implementation and unit testing, like that's where some of this stuff breaks down. Is you don't actually, it's really hard to actually account for the fact that another person is working on it.
Yeah, and like this gets into the realm of I mean, and culture is a weird way to put it, but like it gets into the realm of like the entire team has to be bought into this, right?
Yeah.
And including the managers.
I think, for the most part, I want to answer two questions that just came up kind of related to that. The first one is, can you explain the point system? The point system is based on story points, and it is just an estimation of how long a task would take, or the complexity of a task. Points are just a way of abstracting away the amount of time that it would take, so that we're not always thinking about it in time. That's a whole nother like mini AMA episode. So I'm not going to get much more into that. The other question I want to touch in on that I think Lisa asked, but also Matt, you just touched on it, was buy-in from people. I think it is, for it to be really successful, I think you do need to have buy-in from your team and from management. But I also think you can get started without that. And that could be maybe you have a test that you want to write and you don't know how to write it. Sit down with someone who does know how to do it for an hour and start doing it that way.
Yep. I agree. I think that one of the things that I am really good at, or I try to be really good at, is like bringing up my idea and maybe getting a little bit of buy-in, maybe getting like, yeah, go ahead and try it. And then just going off and doing it. Right. It's like, or if they're unsure, I might just like sneakily do it. Like if somebody else on the team is also interested in doing it, I'd be like, let's just do this and see what happens. And if it fails, it fails. But if it works, then you have something to help build your case, right? It's like,
absolutely,
I have evidence that we worked on this thing for an hour. We set these specific goals on what we're trying to get done in the session, and we surpassed that. And it took us less than half the time. Like that kind of stuff gets harder to fight. So
yeah, it's like it's better to beg forgiveness than ask permission, right?
That's right.
Okay, we've gotten a ton more questions, and I think I'm not sure exactly, the conversation is going to continue going whatever direction it goes, but let's see. We had a question from Jim Cummins a little earlier about, when pair programming, do you let your partner take time to look things up, or do you generally give them the answer if they know it so they don't need to take the time to look something up? And he says, P.S. y'all are awesome.
Hey, Jim. Thanks. I definitely want to be able to look things up. Speaking as like, if I'm the person driving, I want to look things up. I want you to see my process and help me learn maybe how to improve it. Maybe if you've got, hot tips on where to find certain information, like in the future, I'm not somebody that always is pairing with somebody. I know those places exist, but eventually I'm going to be off on my own. So it's a great opportunity for me and for the other person to learn about each other's work styles and learn where they find their information and help each other get better in that and get better in researching. We Google all the time. We'd be lying if we said we didn't. So I don't think that you should just take that out of that experience and pairing.
I totally agree. I think it depends on on a few things too, like maybe your timeline or the experience levels. But what you just said perfectly sums it up, that like it's part of our process. Why eliminate that? Because when, like, if we're in ping pong mode and we flip to who's typing next, you're gonna have to do that. You're probably gonna have to do that too. And so it is good for us to understand other people's like research process. And I think you touched on it. We Google a lot of things, and I've probably learned a lot about how to Google things and how to look things up on Stack Overflow from other people.
Yeah, I mean, in my experience, like I'm very much someone who likes to I learn best from making mistakes myself, and I kind of need to like figure it out on my own. And so having somebody in the room who and this is very much like, it's dependent on your own personal learning styles, but for me, I need to struggle through it. Otherwise, I'm not actually going to learn from that experience. And if somebody's just sitting there like telling me the answers, like that doesn't necessarily help anyone.
Totally.
So being able to Google stuff and look things up on your own, it's like teach a person to fish. Don't just give them a fish, right?
Yep. That's kind of touches back on like the don't dictate somebody's code. Like if they're working through something, like let them try to work through it. Let them type out things. Let them, even sometimes like letting them spell things wrong, just like let them continue out whatever they're typing out, and then let's go back and look at it and talk about it. If they have a typo, then address it. But like when you start to dictate how people write code is when you start to get into problems and people don't like it, and it just can spiral out of control.
Totally. And even like that style is not actually pairing. It's not a collaborative effort. When you're dictating to someone what to do. There is like that strong pairing model that I mentioned earlier. That is a little bit that, but it is not intended to be like, do this, do that. It's intended to help them understand that like, this is how you create a test class. This is how you implement this. And they learn through the actual typing of it as well.
Yeah. So we got a couple questions here that kind of relate to etiquette. And so one of them from Keisha is, any tips for handling different personalities and coding styles? And then there was another question that was like, say that when you're pair programming with someone and they're like hovering over you, how can you ask them to give you space? Like we might be on, and they say we might not be on that section yet, but I guess now is a good time.
So yeah, I mean, I've had all of those things. As I mentioned at the beginning, the hovering thing, that's not pairing. So like you can get up and walk away if that's what's happening, or you can ask them to sit down. But it's really not pair programming.
Got a strong vote of confidence in the comments.
The one other, like I've been in the situation where the person next to me smelled or had bad breath. And on that team, I enacted I think I called it Team Gum. And so after lunch, everybody got their gum. Another like personality thing is that's a harder one because like everyone is who they are. But there's that's when you should like be rotating pairs so that you get a break from that person. And there you can make sure that people are like pairing with everyone using this thing called a pair stare, where it's kind of like.
Wait, hold on. Tell us more about that.
I was trying to find like an image of it, but anyways, I'll see if I can do that after. But anyhow, it's on a whiteboard, you just write down this, it's like half of a matrix that looks like a stair. And then you put every person's name in a stair step. And then, so if I'm on this column and Jenessa's right here, I would mark this one off as we've paired together. And then just throughout the week, we would make sure that we fill in that pair stair to make sure we're all rotating. So that's one way of kind of helping to alleviate that. I think like, if someone is being very difficult, like that's kind of a different problem than not being able to work with them or not being able to pair with them, as in like maybe they're not the right fit for this team, or maybe they're the rock star who thinks they know everything and it's their ego that's getting in the way. So
that unicorn,
there's some of that
A
well.
player.
What's that?
So they're that unicorn, that A player.
Yeah. Yep.
I think that
go ahead.
one of the things with pair programming you have to develop that makes your team develop is trust. And so if you get into that like challenging, different, like butting heads personality, like you two know me, I'm a very direct person. If we have a problem, you're gonna know we have a problem and we're gonna talk about it. We're not gonna be doing a whole lot of pairing before we get to have that conversation. So there's like part of it is like being able to advocate for yourself and be like, hey, you know, like if you could scoot over, that'd be great. Or if like, I'd really like to try to work through this before you give me the answers. Like you have, like there's a part of it where you have to stand up for yourself and you have to say what you want and set your boundaries and have like, you know, be respectful, have adult conversations. And if it's something that doesn't change, if this person is not willing to make any change, then you go to your management, right? And you say like, hey, this is like, I've done these things and this is their reaction and I need help, right? We have to ask for help and we have to advocate for ourselves.
It's almost like pair programming is inherently like anti-Minnesota nice.
Oh yeah.
It's like you're literally too close to each other already. That's like the first problem. And the second problem is that like you kind of need to communicate like a lot.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Gotta use your words.
I think something Jenna said made me think about my experiences pair programming in my first like real full-time coding job. Mm-hmm. And I very much like there were a handful of like it's probably like a 25-person engineering team. And we didn't have like pair stair level, like everybody has to pair program and everybody has to like rotate. But it was sort of like an informal, like if you wanted to pair program with someone, you just ask them and then they would pair program with you and that'd be fine. And I found that at least for me personally, I tended to like out of my team of 8 people, my direct team of 8 people, maybe like 2 of them, I was like really good. Like we paired really well together and it was like a good use of both of our time and we both learned from each other. And then there were other people who it just wasn't the best fit and like we definitely clashed and you know we weren't the most compatible. And I think that's sort of fine and expected too. And to Jenessa's point, it's all about trust. Mm-hmm. And I guess my experience in like the one environment that I paired in was it was a built-in thing where when we were estimating story points and whatnot, that there was the expectation that we would pair on stories if it made sense and that we might not pair on stories if it didn't make sense. And it was just expected that things were loose enough and there was enough sort of wiggle room built in that it was like a self-organized thing. It wasn't a requirement, but it was available as a tool, so to speak.
Yep.
Yep.
I like that. That's my kind of environment.
And I guess there are a lot more questions here, but I think the one that I'm most eager to hear from you is what are your pair programming hot takes?
One of my hot takes is there's this, like, I won't do it all the time. I'm not going to do the workstation. Like we don't have a desk. We have workstations that we just rotate through. And it's just, that's something that wouldn't work for me. And I don't think is suitable for, you know, like most of our I would say workforce, right? Like not everybody can sit next to somebody all day long and pair on every single thing you do. And I think actually pairing on every single ticket would be a waste of time. I think there's some stuff that, you know, there are some tickets that don't require it. And I will die on that hill.
No, I mean, I've been in that situation, and as an introvert who likes to have their own like personal space, but also like time to recharge throughout the day, like that, I totally agree with that. It doesn't work for everyone. And even if you are in that environment where it is like 100% pairing, it's probably not 100% pairing, or it shouldn't be. The like doing it for 2 hours and then taking a break, or only doing it in the morning, like that can help with that for sure. Any other hot takes that I have? The whole like I don't want to do it mentality. I mean, like, especially if people haven't tried it, I think there's something to learn from trying it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't understand that. Where you're like, I'm not into that, or I don't do that. I'm like, have you ever done it? And they're like, no. I'm like,
yeah, exactly. I think like, and I feel like this might like get us into the next set of questions, but right now when we're all at home and we're working like in front of our computer and we kind of have these blinders on and we're not talking, we're like doing these video calls all day long, but we're still not, we're still probably not collaborating maybe as much as we should be. And so this is, pair programming is a way to get you to collaborate with people and a way to help you improve the quality of what you're doing. And so even if you can't do it 100% of the time, if you can't do it remotely where you're like, both of you can type out what you're doing, like there's still value to it, especially right now.
I agree.
Yeah, and I appreciate the transition because you're like, there have been a handful of questions related to like, how do you do pairing in times of COVID, and also like what tools do people recommend, and others about what do you think things are gonna, like pairing is gonna look like post COVID. And so this is kind of the elephant in the room here, and I wanted to leave it because I think we could talk about this for like a whole another hour.
Yeah, that's a hard one. So I don't know what it's gonna look like, right? Like when we go back to whatever the new normal is, like if we're sitting next to each other, we're sitting next to each other. Can't get 6 feet if you don't have it. Like, so, but there are definitely, so I know VS Code has tools for virtual pairing. Like you can work on the same file at the same time. There was a company that we used before Slack bought them that you could screen share and control the other person's screen. It wasn't great. There was like a heavy lag, but that's something that I've done before for remote. And just like a normal screen share where like you're sharing your screen, they're committing, they're pushing, and then you take over and you're sharing, and then I'm sharing my screen and I'm writing code and I'm committing and I'm pushing, and then you take over. So I think that there will probably be more tools being built or improved after this. So, you know, if that's something that you all want to work on, there's a free business idea for you. But I think that we always find ways to get the things that we need done, and we will continue to find ways to get it done.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. There are tools out there. A lot of the text editor IDEs like VS Code and Sublime, and I think Atom, they all have ways of sharing your kind of code base as a screen, and your development environment as a screen. Some, I think you have to add your own audio in. So like phone or Skype or whatever, or video. And I think VS Code does it all in the same thing. I think there's 2 plugins for that. Someone on the chat, Chris, just mentioned that Zoom allows you to control another person's machine too, which I didn't know. That's good to know. But I think even if you can't like control someone else's screen, you can still like start the process and walk through code with someone and solve problems together. Because again, we're not just here to type and to write out code. There's a lot of conversation that goes into it in addition to the code.
Yep.
I feel like this is making me think about the distinction between what pair programming looked like before, like if you were both in the same place, and what pair programming looks like now, and also how that'll change in the future. And part of me is thinking about how if you were doing like fully remote pairing, you could do it even if you're in the same office.
Yep.
And so if that just becomes the new normal, then that actually makes things easier, because then the expectation is that here's the tool we use for pair programming, whether you're in the office together or not, right?
Yeah.
Yep, totally.
That's true.
I think I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but having one of the germ ways of like getting around spreading germs is having 2 keyboards and 2 mice. That way you're not actually physically passing the keyboard and the mouse back and forth every time you flip. You can, I'd assume Windows, you can do this. I know you can with a Mac, where you plug in two keyboards and two mice, and they can both control, which means you can also steal control. So I think like that could become more of a normal thing, even if you're not doing a formal, even if you don't have a formal workstation set up, or if maybe at some point we get past the whole 6 foot rule and can be like 3 feet away.
There you go.
Yeah, Jamie Maxon in chat said that he's been using VS Code Live Share and Slack together.
That's what it's called, Live Share. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said that that's worked really well, and like supplementing Slack audio has been working pretty well.
Yeah. Live Share also has the audio piece. It's like it's an additional extension. So I wonder if you could do that instead of Slack, like if you don't have the paid Slack.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've not used those before.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what other tools I've used, and I think Screen Hero might be the thing that you were talking about,
yes.
Jenessa.
Screen Hero is the one that got acquired by Slack.
Yeah, and from what I know, I think it's no longer like in existence. It was like turned into Slack's video thing.
They pulled a Google. They just bought it and then killed it.
Classic.
Like, what the heck? I think there's one that's like codeshare.io or something like that too, maybe.
Yeah, somebody else in the chat just mentioned something called Use Together. So if you're all if you're in chat, like feel free to pop in your suggestions in here. We can try to aggregate a list and share it later. Okay, so I think we kind of covered the COVID remote versus tools and all of that. We had a couple other questions related to like what level of people should pair together. I'm trying to find these verbatim. Hold on.
Everybody.
Yeah, that's
that's the answer. That's it. That's the tweet.
That's the tweet. Yeah. And I want to say, I don't remember exactly which one this was, but the levels, like it's everybody. I mean,
I think it's everybody.
Yeah.
Maybe the question is what would you do you have recommendations for junior to mid, junior to senior, junior, like mid to mid, senior to senior, like for how those differ?
I think they probably will naturally differ a little bit. Like when you get to 2 seniors, maybe doing the ping pong is more just something that will work better depending on those 2 people. But I think from a junior aspect, like junior to senior, if you're bringing in somebody that's junior to your organization, that you all should be pairing for a while, if not forever, right? Like you need to make it a part of the way that you onboard, because throwing somebody into the mix is hard enough if you just let them do the kind of like toss the kid into the pool and make like they'll sink or swim. Like that's not the kind of culture hopefully that you're trying to foster. Like help them, like they're gonna have questions, like make it easy, make it an easier transition, make them feel like they're welcome there, make them feel like they want to be there. So for everybody.
100% what you just said. And I think like we talked about this a little bit before, that like it's not just imparting your knowledge on a junior person, it's learning about the business, learning about, maybe it's a new tech stack that 2 senior people, one has experience with it and one doesn't. It's it doesn't mean that as a senior developer that you don't have something to learn. There's always going to be stuff to learn.
Yeah.
And it's not just about learning either. It's about like building quality products, and that collaboration helps you solve more complex problems that maybe one head is not as good as 2 in a more complex situation.
Okay, so we've got 10 minutes left, and we have one more question, but there's so much chatter that I got to catch up. If you have any burning questions that you want Jenessa or Jenna to answer before we go, feel free to pop them in chat. But one of the most recent questions was, if you pair in the morning, and this is from Neota Mo, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. If you pair in the morning, for example, and then don't pair in the afternoon, what are your recommendations for that ticket/work? Does one person keep working on it solo, or are there some stories that are only worked on in a pair? Good question.
That is a good question.
I think the answer to that last question is yes. The one person could keep working on it, provided the two of you have like had a conversation about what that work looks like. But there might be, something that's more complex or that's harder to break down. It might be that you continue working on it as a pair. And maybe you move on to something else that's, or you pair with someone else on that thing. Like maybe the one person that you're pairing with only works in the morning, but that other person works all day long. You could rotate pairs halfway through the day.
I feel like personally I would be overwhelmed. If I were pairing in the morning and then I was like expected to pair someone in the afternoon, I'd be like, I just need some time to myself, thank you.
Totally. Well, and I mean that's kind of where the like 1.5 to 2 hour recommendation comes in. It is hard to do that continuously. Personally, like I don't like doing it all day long. That's just an example of how that could work.
I think that's something that we probably didn't touch on, like the timing of it. Like that's not like we've all said like we're not doing it all day long, but how long do we do it? I think that part of it is like set a goal for the pairing session that you're having. Like if you're working on a ticket, maybe that has 1 or 2 parts, maybe you work on the first part and you're pairing on that and you give yourself an hour or 2, right? And you take breaks. Like don't just sit down for 2 hours straight. I mean, if you get lost in it, you get lost in it, sure. But set yourself a timer, set an alarm, something to make sure that you're not spending all day sitting there together.
Yeah.
Because while that's great, you need a break.
I saw something in the chat earlier about using the Pomodoro technique. That's another way of like reducing the amount of time that you have to spend with someone. And if you don't know what the Pomodoro technique is, it's like 20 minutes of focused work, and then like a 5-minute break. It's usually adjustable however you want to do it, but like a 5-minute break and then 20 minutes and then 5 minutes. And you do that like 4 times, and then you get a 40-minute break or something like that. I can't remember the exact rules, but I work that way often, even when I'm working by myself. So it's definitely a way to kind of chunk up what you're working on to make it more digestible.
I have a selfish question that I want to ask. Like pair programming sort of assumes that you have a team, right? And like I'm in a case where it's just me, and so I'm curious if you've heard of any things where like other folks in the community like are available to pair or volunteer, or even if you could like pay somebody to pair with you. Have you heard of anything like that before?
I'll pair
if
with
so,
you,
did it
Matt.
work?
Matt, I am free to pair with you. Let's do it. Look, Jim said he'll do it.
This is a cry for help.
Just gotta ask.
Okay.
Yeah,
fair,
and
awesome.
I think there are tools out there that will match you up with other people. I unfortunately don't know their names, but and I haven't used them, so I don't actually know. But as someone who works independently a lot, like that's a real hard thing, and finding your network and your community of people that will help you, because they probably want to learn something too. So I think that's a good answer for that.
Oh my gosh, there are paid services. Look at that.
Yeah. Thanks for the hot tip.
You are amazing.
Yeah, Tamara, if you know what those services are, drop them in Slack or drop them in chat so we can add them to the list.
Pullrequest.com. Wow. Matt, here you go.
I've been wanting a service like this where I could pay somebody to pair with me for my whole life. I didn't know I needed it, but I do.
This is awesome.
Yeah. All right. So we got 5 minutes left. Thank you, Jamie and Jim and Jenessa, all of you for volunteering to pair with me. That's so kind. This is not all about me though. So we have 5 minutes left. I'm not sure, actually, Jenna, can you tell me before we do anything else, do you know what the next mini AMA is, just so that people know what to put on their calendars?
I do not know that answer.
Okay. Well,
Maria can put it in the chat though, and we can tell you.
Yeah.
Okay. But if not, if you love this experience of being on a mini AMA, just know that follow Misconceptions on social media and like check the newsletter, and you'll see whenever the next ones are announced. I don't know off the top of my head either. But with 4 minutes left, do y'all have any like sort of last things you want to share? Questions, comments, concerns, feelings, whether it's about pair programming or not. I mean, I think the discussion today has been really good, and it's encouraging to see so many people who are supportive of this and wanting to see this content and also like recommending tools and things that can help. So any parting words?
My thing is just give it a try. It might not be for you, and I think that's okay, but you're not going to actually know that until you try it. And I think it's, yeah, that's it.
Not until you try it.
Well, I was going to say a bunch more stuff, but I'm going to stop there.
I think that is kind of what I would say is, like, one, if you haven't done it, do it at least once. You can't talk crap about it if you haven't done it. Nobody wants to hear that. But also, like, if you're having trouble, like, if you're not sure how to do it, there are a lot of resources online about people who have tried a lot of different ways of doing it, and asking people that you know that have done pair programming, like, they're always going to be there to help you figure that out. And if you want to do it at work, bring it up. Just, you gotta shoot your shot, as they say, as the kids say, shoot your shot.
Solid advice.
And then so as far as like resources and books, and other things, for people to look at, we'll send out an email after this with all this kind of some of the resources that came up. Matt just posted this in the chat, I think. I wrote a couple blog posts on this in 2013. So some of it could be a little out of date, but for the most part, it should be it should be okay. But I did mention a couple things, like Martin Fowler is one person that's written a lot about this. And I've got 2 links that I can share on that. And then Ward Cunningham on his wiki, he's got a lot of compiled a lot of other resources. And it's mostly, a lot of that is kind of about the how and the business selling points of it. And less about like which tools should I use today kind of thing. So just kind of keep that in mind as you look at it, but I'll put that in there as well.
Great. Well, with that, Jenna and Jenessa, thank you so much for volunteering your time. I feel like this has been a lot of fun, and we could, as Tamara pointed out, we could definitely talk about pair programming for hours. I guess
we'll
everybody
keep on the next one.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, cool. And with that, I guess everybody, we hope you all have a fabulous day, and thanks for joining us. And stay tuned for what the next mini AMA is going to be and when, considering the interest and how much chatter there was today. My guess is that we might have more, there might be more events similar to like in the realm of like programming and being on teams and software and like all of that. So keep your eyes peeled. I can't promise anything, but it might happen.
Welcome back, Maria.
Hey!
Oh, Maria's back. Don't close it down.
No, I was just going to add to that. If you are interested in this topic, as a reminder, if you missed it, we are having mini bar on Saturday, and we'll send out the link to that if you're not already signed up. But one of the sessions is on this topic. It is on pair programming. So that would definitely be one spot to check out this weekend.
Maria, do you know what the next mini AMA is?
It is coming.
Okay. Got it. Never mind then.
Come on, Jenna, dang.
We're working on some things. We will definitely have one on the 22nd of May. That is, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so we're going to have something on mental health, a practitioner in telehealth and stuff like that. And then the one earlier in the month, we're still working out. So you'll get more info on that. All right, everyone. Well, thank you to our panelists. Thank you to everyone who submitted questions. This was an awesome conversation, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Enjoy that sunshine.
Bye,
Bye everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.